Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the newest episode of Love, Light, and Bullshit Bingo. I am Karen Roundtree, and this is my wonderful friend, soul sister, and co host.
Yolandi Bosso, hey! Awesome.
And it's so wonderful to be back. We missed last month, so I apologize for anybody who didn't catch us last month and was wondering where we were. But we are back this month, and we've got a juicy one for you.
Oh man. Yeah, so like super excited about today's little topic because it's like I feel like it's a little center point and it's going to lead us into like about 1,000 discussions. So yeah, we're going to try not to be too all over the place with this one because it's like literally like this little vortex. But yeah, Karen, introduce us to the topic for today.
Oh, I feel like, you talk about it being a center point. I've got this feeling that, you might need to strap in. This could be a 45-minute conversation. It could be a 6-hour conversation. Who knows how I'm going to go. So this is one that we've talked about doing since the very start of this podcast, which is to talk about the concept of the guru. Now, let me say before we go any further with that, when we talk about the guru, we're talking about that Western appropriation of that term. I know that, in I think it's Hinduism, that is a real kind of sacred religious concept. So please know that for the purposes of this podcast, that is not what we are talking about. Neither Yolandi or myself are from that part of the world, are involved with those cultures or those traditions. We are not talking about, we're not well placed to talk about that. We are talking about the Western idea of the guru. And really, that's where we started, isn't it, Yolandi? And as we've been discussing this, it's taken us further, it's taken us bigger, and we've come to realize that actually this Western concept of the guru is something that underpins not only the bullshit side of spirituality, but so much of our lives and so much of our culture.
Yeah. And I mean, just even as you say that, it's like I think for anyone who's starting their journey into their own inner knowing and their own wisdom, like we all start out with someone we idolize, someone we look up to, someone we put on a pedestal somewhere and we go, oh, they know everything and I just want them to show me, right? So that's like, for me, it was like when I started, like I needed something to hold on to. I needed someone who could give me information and like help me to kind of wrap my head around like energy and all of this stuff out there and how the universe works and everything. And then yeah. And then we grow up into what it is.
And that's important, isn't it? I definitely had that as well. And I'm kind of smiling at myself thinking about it. And I have had and continue to have teachers, guides, helpers, people who inspire me, people who have bits of information that I'm like, let me drink this information in. You know it, you teach it, you share it so well. That's something I want. And also, I think where that changes from that place of, oh my God, tell me everything, I want to be like you, to where, you move to further down the line is recognizing that it's not just one person who is everything to you. And B, the wisdom that others share is never meant to be taken verbatim, including ours, unfortunately, taken verbatim and kind of followed to the letter. It's something much different. Everything we learn from another person, from another school, from another book, from another documentary is stuff that we take it and go, okay, thank you very much. We chuck some bits out because they don't fit us. And we put the rest in our alchemical cauldron of wisdom, stir it all up and see what comes out. And the journey to get from that place of almost idolatry for somebody's knowledge and somebody's wisdom to alchemical stewing on your own cauldron is, I guess, the pathway that we all take, and is, I guess, how we move away from this concept of the guru.
Yeah. And when we start to realize how important it is, obviously, to bring all these things in, because we have to allow ourselves to explore different ideas, right? We have to allow ourselves to go, oh, let me feel into this. Oh, no, it doesn't feel good. But this is where our wisdom, taking our wisdom in and like using our wisdom starts, right? Like we have to be discerning about the information that we put. Like I call it a basket. I like your cauldron. Mine's a basket, yours a cauldron. Like we have to be discerning about like, where am I going? what information am I getting? What am I turning into dogma? And what am I actually going like, oh, this is utter bullshit. So like the biggest thing here is to learn to trust our own inner compass, our own like guidance system, and to go, okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, because I feel my entire belief system that I've created for myself for over 10 years is little bits and pieces of all sorts of stuff that I've taken and put together and that I own, and that has become part of my energy signature that I'm putting out into the world, right? So it's just like that discernment that we need, that we're not just going, I cannot think for myself, I cannot tune in for myself, I cannot do this because I have to go through them. So it's again that dogmatic old like church way of doing stuff. I need the priest to get to God type vibe, right?
I love the fact that you use the word dogma. I love it. And I love it for two reasons. One being that I always remember years ago, I interviewed Megan Waterson, who is absolutely one of my teachers that I still go, oh my God, just let me drink in what she says because it's amazing.
She's epic.
It isn't all mine, but I love drinking in what she has to say and how she shares it. But I always remember she used the words, we moved at the time the Christian church spread through the world, we moved from a place of sophiology into a place of eschatology.
Wow.
And at the time I remember being like, I don't know what that means. And so I asked her, and sophiology is a place of, it's actually looking inwards for salvation was what the thing is, looking inwards for wisdom, looking inwards for answers, looking inwards for salvation. And eschatology is looking outside of ourselves for salvation, wisdom, and answers. And her whole premise was, well, not her whole premise, she does amazing things, but what she was saying in that moment was organized religion has by and large taken us into this society, into this world of an eschatology, where if we are looking for answers, for wisdom, for salvation, for forgiveness, whatever it is, we are told to go outside of ourselves to a higher power, and inevitably, then further down the line, outside of ourselves to the middle men, because they're almost always men, to the middle men, although not in the new age world, but we'll come to that, who apparently stand between us and that higher power, who are our gatekeepers, who are the only people who can have that wisdom, who can have those answers, who can give us this salvation. And that single thing has robbed us of so much power and has robbed us of so much wisdom. Yeah. And I think the other reason I love the fact that you say dogma is it makes me think, when I think of something being dogmatic, I think of it as being fixed.
Yes.
There is nothing that can change in this. I look like I'm doing a weird dance, but there is nothing that can change. This is what it is. And you know, the beauty of whether it's our alchemical basket or our alchemical cauldron is things change.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I remember kind of earlier on this path being in this place where if something shifted my beliefs, I would be rocked to my core for days or weeks or months. And I'd be like, how can I believe? How can I be part of this world if something has shifted? Now, I actually know there are probably about 4 pillars of my belief system that I don't think will ever change. Although now I've said that, watch them shift. But one of those pillars is nothing's fixed.
Yeah.
Everything shifts. Like if I look back to what I thought I knew, what I thought I believed 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 months ago.
Yep.
The fundamental principles may be very similar, but actually the detail of that, the intricacies and the color of it is so different, but not different in a way that necessarily it's completely flipped, different in a way that it's expanded, it's grown, it's changed, it's gone from black and white to a little bit sepia to sort of color to full glorious ultra HD. And you know what? It'll probably get bigger again still, and it'll shift and it'll change and it'll flow in the process.
Yeah.
To me, that's what moving out of that dogma gives us. It gives us that, not just the ability to change and to recognize that it changes, but the freedom to flow with that change as well.
Yes. And being okay with that change, because it's like, I'm just thinking back, like even when I was writing my book, right, like last year, and I was like I started writing and I brought some stuff in that I learned like in the beginning, and I was like, oh, I don't even like, this doesn't even resonate with me anymore. This is like so not Like, this isn't even there. And I was actually berating myself at that time, but I was also like, look how you've grown. Like, you know, it's like we're little kids, like learning to like draw with our coloring pencils and stuff. And so we have to give ourselves grace to actually flit between ideas and go, today I feel this, and then tomorrow it's going to change. It's like, you know, it has to, it's an alchemical process, exactly what you said. And it's like giving ourselves that space to be okay that you are not in that fixed position. Because that's the thing with religion for me, is like, that's it. There is nothing can change. This is it. This book, this whatever this like thing is, like, we have to stick in the boundaries of this. And then if we stick in the boundaries of this shit, then we just cut ourselves off from potential of like all of the magic out there.
And isn't it funny when we think about that? Because actually, if we were to go back, and again, this is you know, a tenant of other people's work that I've read before. I am not this historian, but if we go back, and I'm picking on Christianity because that's the predominant religion where I am, but if we go back to prior to the invention of the printing press, the Bible stories, the tales of Christianity would have changed and shifted and flowed all the time, depending on who you were talking to. You know, I live just down the road from Lindisfarne, where the Lindisfarne Gospels were written, which is it's a sort of tenet of Christianity in the West now. Now, if we go back before that, before somebody actually put pen to paper and said, these are the Christian stories, we're going to write these down, before somebody printed them and then mass produced that printing so that everybody had the same version of these stories, they were different. They were changing. They were shifting. They were allegorical tales that you know, got an underlying metaphor across. They were perhaps tales of a person's life, but in the same way that me and you could go out and have a great adventure together, and we'll both tell the story differently. Every one of those disciples will have told it differently. Every person that they will have told the story to will have told it differently. You know, this story will have always changed and flowed. And yet here we are with a religion. Well, it hasn't just come to one dogma, because you look at all the different branches of Christianity that have all sorts of different perspectives on this, but we've come to one dogma simply because of the invention of the printing press.
Yes, exactly.
Because of who got to be the one that was the dominant storyteller in this.
Yeah.
Not because it's necessarily the factual truth, the one perspective on this. No, it's just the perspective that won. History is written by the victors, and there's the victor.
And the one with the biggest printing press, and the one who had the most money to get the story out, right? Like, it's a bit like reading in the newspaper today, right? Like, if I've got the biggest like reach, then that's going to be what everyone's going to believe, because when it's written down, surely it must be true. But this again, like, so then we put the rules down, because now, like, educated people have put shit onto paper, which means that we have to follow it, because if it's on paper, it must be true. But again, we're taking ourselves away out of our bodies, out of our knowing, and out of our, like, believing in what we are feeling, right? Like, so if I read these words, like, what's your body telling you? Like, where are you? Like, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? Like, again, it's just like, I'm giving you this thing, you have to believe it because it's written down. No. Like, I'm giving you this thing because some famous person is saying it, you have to believe it. No. Like, this is the thing, like, we have to get back into the space of listening.
Yeah. And this kind of takes us back to the very concept of gurus, doesn't it? Because now, I guess back then, our gurus were the priests, our gurus were the people with the printing presses, our gurus were the feudal landlords in the early feudalist systems, our gurus were the tribe leaders, our gurus were those people. Now, our gurus are the influencers with the biggest following on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, does that mean they know everything? No, of course it doesn't. And I mean, there's one thing that I find it really worrying, that because we've now been coached into this place of, to use Megan's word, eschatology, of looking outside of ourselves, we don't use that discernment you spoke about before. You know, how often do we go, oh, well, that person's got however many followers, they must know what they're talking about. Or that person's written a book on this, they must know what they're talking about. And perhaps they do for them, or indeed for their clients, if they're somebody who's worked with a lot of people. Doesn't mean they know everything. It doesn't mean we listen to their views away from anyone else's. You know, I mean, of course, there are certain circumstances where it makes sense to seek an expert opinion. I'm not going to suggest that you or I go and carry out brain surgery. That would be really silly. But also, there is so much more to life that we really need to take in that insight and then sit with it.
Yeah.
And I think my issue with the guru thing, be it a priest, be it a politician, be it a new age person who is telling you exactly how you must and must not use crystals, is precisely that, this idea of one size fits all.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the way it works.
So what is it going to take for us as people to start realizing that, like, we are able to connect, we are able to discern, we are able to, like, basically step back into this space of connectedness, of power, of like really running our own lives, making our own decisions? What's it going to take for us to get back into that space? Okay, so I mean, like, I feel like my whole quest is to get myself back into that space of sovereign thinking, like discernment, all of that. That's feels like all I'm fucking doing every single day is questioning and asking. But like for you listening, like, what's it going to take for you? Like, Karen, what did it take for you to get yourself into that space?
Because I think it's different for all of us, isn't it? And it's different at different times. Like, if you had asked, we were just talking about this before we started, if you had asked me 6 weeks ago, what did it take you to get you into that space? I would have had an answer for you. At this point in time, I can't remember what it would have been, but I would have had an answer for you. And since our last podcast, the reason we postponed the previous recording is because my dog passed away. And as you will all know, because I talk about her all the time, my dog is the most important soul in my entire life. And since she has passed away, my connection has shifted. My understanding of the entire universe has shifted, which might sound silly to some people, but it's shifted because as somebody who's connected with spirit my whole life, all of a sudden I'm connecting with spirit in a deeper way than I ever thought. All of a sudden I'm seeing into that unseen, seeing into that afterlife in a deeper way than I ever thought. And you know what? It was that moment of absolute. Sometimes the shift, the shift is a nice one. Sometimes the moment of awakening is a nice one. It is the moment we stand under a beautiful, we've both talked recently about seeing double rainbows, under a beautiful, glorious double rainbow, look up at the sky and go, oh my God, there's so much more to this world than I'd ever imagined. Sometimes it is literally the moment when the most important thing in your life is pulled out from under you and you have to go, I don't know how my world is anymore. I don't know how my life looks anymore. I've built my world around something that isn't there. What do I do? And either way, one of those is much nicer than the other. But actually, sometimes the horrible one is the one that gives us the biggest wake up.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I'm totally with you. This is a lifelong quest for sovereignty. And I actually believe it's the purpose of life, is to understand more, to learn more.
Yeah.
Back to ourselves over and over again, which, by the way, any guru who says I will bring you all the way back to yourself is talking bullshit, because it is a continual quest. You will come back to yourself a million times a day and you still won't be all the way back, because that's what we're doing in every moment. But also there are those moments of absolute awe-inspiring beauty, and there are those moments of absolute heart-wrenching pain, and every one of them is an eye-opening moment of bringing us back to ourselves in a different sense. It's like piecing a jigsaw puzzle together, and perhaps that's what we're doing our whole lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that no one can give you that. Like, no one can give you those moments. People's words can take you to those places. Things that happen in your life can take you to those places. Like all of it is like little strands that bring us back, right? That goes ping, aha, ping, aha. It's like every single moment is that deeper connection. And when I'm deepening my connection with myself, like, I'm literally deepening it with everything, like the earth, the universe, like all of it, right? And the beauty that lies there. Fuck.
And isn't it, I think when you say that, it makes me think about how many times of you, and I know I have, read a book or taken a course or listened to a lecture or whatever it might be, and come out of it going, yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's all right. And then 6 months later, something will happen, be it one of those horrible moments of loss or of pain, be it one of those terrifying moments of like, oh, I don't know what's going on in the world, be it one of those beautiful moments of just being utterly at one with the earth. And all of a sudden, a little something of whatever you journaled, whatever you read, whatever you heard will pop, and it will just start to bloom within you.
Yeah.
And it's like all we are ever doing when we are listening to other teachers, if we can look at the teachers, if we can look at the guides, if we can look at the people out there who make it their job to share their own wisdom, their own experiences, their own insights, if we can stop looking at them as gurus and start looking at them as seed distributors, like drug dealers, but a bit cooler, seed distributors, then that, I think this is the way we do it. We remember that, if I spoke about Megan before, Megan's work is an incredible seed for me. Thank you. I'll plant that in my inner earth.
Yeah.
Your work is an incredible seed for me. Thank you. I'll plant that in my inner earth. There are so many, not one of those people, or indeed all of those people, I could line up every person I've learned from in my journey so far. Not one of them would be like, this is the basis for my view of the world.
Yes.
All together even would not be, this is the basis for my view of the world. But every single one of them has given me one or more seeds that I've planted within me. And then there have been, I don't know if this is making sense, there have been moments in my life where I've just gone, and now this is starting to sprout.
Yeah.
And it's almost, I think, my biggest concern, I guess, I keep saying my biggest concern with the guru thing, and then I say something else, is the fact that we go, this will give me the answers. We take someone else's teachings, we hold them close to our chest, and we go, this is it. This is what I need. This is the answers. And now I know everything. And as you say that, it keeps us from so much possibility. It keeps us from so much expansion, because the expansion comes when we say, okay, thank you for that piece of wisdom. Let me just pop it in the soil here and wait for the moment when it blooms.
Yes.
And it will. And when it blooms, it's more beautiful than anything we could read or pay attention to from anyone else.
I love that. And this actually made me think now while you were speaking, like this dropped in. I was having this conversation with a client this week about like angels and like goddesses and all of that type of stuff. And again, for me, they would fall under the whole guru thing as well, because people kind of go like, I'm only working with Mary Magdalene, or I'm only working with the angels and stuff like that, right? And for me, like all of these like ascended masters and goddesses and all of these things like angels, etc., that we work with are again seed distributors, right? They are archetypal energies that we are learning something from them, right? Like say if you worked with Lilith, like what is the archetype of Lilith? What does she bring to you? Like how many seeds can Lilith give you? How much like little bits of wisdom does she bring into how you look at the world? Like for me, like when I worked with the energy of Mary Magdalene, like that really opened up stuff for me. So, but they are not, you do not become this. They do not, like you are not guided by them. You are guided by the pieces that they unlock in you that makes you remember how you are all of this anyway, right? Like it's just like, it's really important, because I think people get so fixated on like giving like all of their fucking power to these outside forces as well. And they're not even real people, right? Like we're not even talking about the teachers. They are just like, they are like energies that we work with.
And they're always, versions of energies, I mean, I'm thinking now about those people who will sort of go, I am the mouthpiece of Mary Magdalene, or I am the mouthpiece of Lilith, or whatever it is. And I mean, I've probably said that before in the past as well, like hands up, hello. But they are the mouthpiece for their own perspective of that. Now, we both channel spirit. Okay. So I know that when I step out, the stuff that comes out of my mouth is not mine. It comes from someone else. And yet part of being a channel is it comes through me.
Yeah.
It will always have a little, there will be words that I will use because they come through my vocabulary. They come through. And when you are, even if you are purely channeling, that is the case. When you are sitting there very consciously and saying, I'm going to tell you the story of this energy that I know, you can know them really well, but you will still be telling your version of that story in the same way that, if I went and spoke, if the two of us went and spoke to another person separately about someone we're both friends with, about our friend Charlie, for example.
Yeah.
they would both describe Charlie in very different ways.
Yeah.
Neither of those things would be wrong, arguably. We both love Charlie. We would say lovely things about her. But neither of them would be the full picture, and they would both probably be quite different.
Yeah.
Because we see a person, we all see a person, we all experience a person through our own lens of the world, through our own lens of reality. And it's the same with the goddesses and the masters and the angel. We will all perceive that energy through our own view of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and again, this comes back to then like you taking information, like you're building, and like, you know, your knowledge base, your like your little bits of you that's opening up. That's what you're constantly doing. So it's just like we cannot be so rigid and we cannot be so fixed about these things, because I mean, like even like my relationship with some of these like goddesses and stuff have so shifted in the last 10 years. Like right in the beginning, like they were everything, and I'm like, cool, I'll see you when I see you, when we hook up, like I'll get information from you, love you, bye. You know, that's like kind of that's what it's for me. That's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be like I'll check in and see what do I need from there now. But at the end of the day, I have to look after my energy, and I'm the one building my energy and my connection to the universe and the everything out there, but it has to come from inside of me. I'm the strength. I'm the one who holds this stuff. And this is where we're getting lost with this whole guru complex stuff that we go through.
Totally. And this is where, you know, when we think about whether it's the guru, whether it's the influencer with 10 million followers on Instagram, whether it's the goddess, whether it's the archangel, the problem is even when we attribute those labels, as something to kind of go, oh, something to strive towards, something to be, just in that simple action, we're taken away from ourselves.
Yeah.
Because actually there's books, isn't there, called You Are Your Own Guru. So, but you are the only one who gets to decide what's right for you.
Yeah.
You are the only one who knows the right answers for you. You are the only one who can give yourself salvation. You are the only one who can spark your own creative flame. Are you alone in that? Hell no. There's a shitload of energies out there who can help you, who can support you, who can guide you, who can give you their own little seeds. But when it comes down to it, the decision to move forward, the decision to take action, the choice to actually figure out what the answer is, that's yours. That is always yours. You can have all those seeds, but the one who cultivates the garden, only ever you.
Yeah.
And by us going, oh, I must go to this, I must look and see what this influencer has posted, I must ask this guru, I must follow the teachings of this author, I must tune into this goddess, I must pray to this archangel. Do all of that if you want, or do none of it, because at the end of the day, it's down to you. You are not, while you are not on your own, you're everything. You are in everything. You are part of everything. You are perspective of everything. It's you who has to do the do, and it's you who has to be the be. It's you. So do it.
And that's the thing, right? Like, it's creator energy, it's creatrix energy, whichever one you want to choose. But it's like all of these things are like building the baby, right? Like it's whatever you're going to put out, all of these things. Like this whole week, all I see is like these babies popping up, and I'm just like just take all of the stuff, everything, and like let it like culminate and like birth. That's it. Yeah. And that's it. Like just like you say, just fucking get out there and do the shit. Like stop questioning yourself.
just recognize how, oh my God, just recognize how fucking incredible you are. You know, there's all those memes, isn't there, that we see on Instagram that are like, you are a child of the stars and you are blah, 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 all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you are here. You are flesh and bone. You are beating heart. You are probably a little bit overworking mind. You are incredibly ancient, wise soul. You are here. Your body is doing a million things right now that you don't even know about. How big are you? So why the hell do you think you have to look outside of yourself for anything amazing? This is a miracle. That is a miracle. You are a miracle. Like, own that incredibleness. And remember how cool it is just to be us. And I think there's one other thing that I really want to say, which links into what you've just said, which is something we spoke about before we started. Let's not forget that when we're talking about this guru stuff, when we're talking about this eschatology stuff, science has a part to play in this as well.
Boom. And Yolandi just did a little vomit in the corner. Yes.
I was going to tell Yolandi before I was watching a documentary. I was at my parents' house the other day and I was watching a documentary show. Some people may not call it a documentary, but I'm going to purposely about some people who are looking for Bigfoot. It was great. It was really good. And this woman said, I'm a scientist, so I really struggle with the fact that on this mission, I don't have answers for what we're seeing and experiencing, because as a scientist, I must have answers. And I kind of sat there and was like, no, you're missing the point of science. The point of science is not to know everything. The point of science is to learn. It's to find out. It's to push the boundaries and expand. And we find ourselves in this world that is ruled by, at present, and I love science. I've said this before. I bloody love science. But we find ourselves in a world right now that is ruled by the type of science that is dogmatic.
Yeah.
It says, here is what we know, and so that is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And stop pushing the boundaries and asking questions quite so much.
And if I question it, then you get vilified and you basically, you're made out as the bad guy when you say, but like, why are you saying this? What if this is different, etc. And that's going to be the same in any industry where you are, any place where you are, like even like us having these conversations, like us questioning, like, why must it be like this? Why did you make those rules? Why did you say this? Right? And then like it takes all of the possibilities out there away because we're in the fucking box again and we won't look outside the box. And yet, like this universe, I've really, like the stuff that we haven't even seen yet, like we've only started scratching the surface of what is out there. Like in scientific terms, in fucking woo-woo terms, and all of this, like we've only just started scratching the surface. So we're doing all of ourselves a disservice by staying in the fucking box. And so that's the whole thing.
When you think, science is makes new discoveries every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, and will continue to do so. How can we ever think we know everything? And I love, one of my favorite bits of your book is it the last chapter that Rob writes, your husband?
Yes.
Where
yes,
and there's a bit in that where he says something along the lines of, our favorite thing to do is to lie in bed on a Sunday morning and have conversations about how we each see the universe. And Yolandi talks about the Akashic records and the universe and all of this stuff. And I talk about quantum particles and I don't even know the words, but Rob talks about very, very serious science things with big words that I don't understand. And actually what we inevitably find is that those two things come to the same
Always.
I've forgotten the word, conclusion.
Yeah.
They are the same thing. We just use different words. And this is it. Like we haven't found every degree of woo-woo. We probably never will, because we've got tiny human brains that can't comprehend it all. When I studied consciousness, that's the hard problem of studying consciousness, is that we're trying to study something limitless and vast.
Yeah.
Through a human brain.
Yeah.
It's like picking up a calculator and trying to study the alphabet. You can't, because it only does numbers. And we've also got science that we're never going to know the full scope of science. But what we are starting to see more and more is that the woo-woo and the science, they go hand in hand. They are one and the same. And when we embrace those things, we start to realize that the possibilities are so limitless.
And you know what I always find so interesting, because I will explain something to him, like to my husband, Rob, and then like I will say, oh, and then it feels like this and it feels like this and da-da-da-da. And he's like, oh yeah, that's quantum entanglement. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's got a name. And he's like, yeah, there's actually a scientific explanation. And I'll be like, okay, cool. So what I also want to say is we were talking about like stuff being written, like the whole intellectual side of things, all of that. So what this has taught me over the years is that just because I haven't read it in a book doesn't mean that it's not true. Okay, just because we haven't found it somewhere and some person has said it and it's been documented doesn't mean that it's not true. Okay, so I think it's really important, and this goes back to me trusting my inner authority, trusting who I am, trusting what I'm feeling, all of that type of stuff, because inevitably what we feel and what we're experiencing in our woo-woo lands and all that shit, like there's bound to be some evidence for it somewhere at some stage, and even if there isn't right now, there could be. Okay, so then don't stop yourself from feeling, seeing, experiencing.
And absolutely that. And if I can add an extra bit onto that, equally, don't think because you haven't read it somewhere, that doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't see it, feel it, think it, believe it. Like so often, I think in this world, when our thoughts, when our beliefs, when our experiences are outside of the sort of dominant social norms,
Yeah.
we think we're the only one. And actually, I had a conversation with someone the other week who is launching something new out into the world, and she was saying, "But I'm the only person who sees the world like this." And I had to go, "Well, actually, no, you're not." And
Yeah.
that's not to say that what you are launching isn't incredible and that the world doesn't need this to be shared in your way, because your way of sharing this is something that the world has never seen or heard of. But the fundamental principles underlying it, they're already out there. Of course they are. There are, I don't even want to try and say how many people there have been throughout the whole of human history. And every one of them has had a perspective on the world.
Yeah.
The chances are there's very few completely unique ways of seeing the world. The positive of that is you can remember that you're never truly alone, no matter how much of a freak or an outcast you might feel. You're not. The downside of it is we have, or is it a downside? I don't know. We have to remember that, again, when we think about the guru side of it, if we look to somebody and see them writing something or speaking something or being something that we go, "Oh my God, I want to be just like them." It's not just them. They are doing that in their way. But that doesn't mean that A, the way they're doing it is right for everyone. And B, it doesn't mean they're the only one to ever think this. And I think that's something that I got caught up in for a long time, was someone has come up with this theory. It's theirs.
Mm.
I can't run with it because it's theirs.
Mhm.
And it's just not true. We have to remember that the theories, the archetypes, the energies that we're working with have been around since the dawn of time in some way, shape, or form. Call them the Akashic records, call them the quantum realm, call them any number of other things. It's the same, these concepts, these energies, these feelings are the same thing. We will all write them different ways, and that's awesome. But just know that actually it's part of something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We're all just little translators, aren't we? Like you said, like that's all we're doing. We're all tuning into all of the magic around us all the time. And we just like speaking it out in different ways and shapes. But at the end of the day, I think we're all basically saying the same thing anyway.
And don't you think when we realize that there's almost a dichotomy here, isn't there? That there are limitless possibilities and there are limitless ways of seeing the world. And actually, when we realize that all of that limitlessness, all of that vastness, all of those possibilities, and all of that huge, mind-blowing whatever it is, can come down to some very simple truths, some very fundamental principles. Kind to one another, respect one another, and just remember that you've got the answers for yourself within you. They're my truths anyway. Perhaps somebody else's are different. And we're all part of something bigger. When we remember the commonalities as much as we remember the limitless potentials and differences, that's when we start to come to a place of just, I don't want to say peace in terms of global peace, but certainly a bit more inner peace.
But inner peace leads to global peace. So that's my belief. Like they're all connected. Like the more I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, think what you want. I'm not going to be fighting with you. I'm not going to be blowing you up, right? Like that for me is always the thing is like the minute that I'm in this space of like, yeah, everything's good. So yeah, it does change the world. So yeah, so I think, have you got any other thoughts on this? I'm like conscious of the fact that we have gone a little bit over our usual length.
No, I feel like I've talked a lot. So no, how about you? Do you have any other thoughts?
Well, for me, it's just, I just start thinking for yourself. That's all I want to say. It's just like that for me is just the biggest thing. It's like you have to question you. You're the one searching. That's it, right? Like you're the one searching always for answers. So the more you realize that like all of these little things, everyone that you're attaching yourself to is just like small little gateways to you finding your own answers anyway. Like you said, they seed it. Like this is the thing. We just have to, it's about taking responsibility for owning like your sovereign experience. and stop putting it out there. So that's all I want to like just add. It's like just take responsibility, because the more we take responsibility for this experience, the deeper we get to go.
So, do you know what I'm thinking of when you say that? I keep seeing Tom Hanks on the movie where he's on the desert island. Is it Castaway?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the fact that if each of us were to find ourselves on a desert island tomorrow, no internet, no books, no other people, no other animals, just us and the earth and the sea, we would still have questions. We would still have maybe have concerns. There would still be stuff going on in our brain, but we wouldn't be able to look outside of ourselves. We'd have to look within ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we all have to be desert islands. How fortunate we are that we have all of this information and we have all of this support available to us. But let's remember that if all there was you and the earth, you would still find the answers.
Yeah.
You would still find wisdom. You would still find comfort. You would still eventually find salvation within yourself. All of those things, if it came down to it and it was just you and the earth, you'd still find them all.
Oh, so beautiful. Yes, that one. Okay, cool.
Well, that was a long one.
Yes, but this is good. So I hope you enjoyed it, because I surely did. This was really beautiful. Thank you, babe.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. And thank you for watching and for listening, as
Yeah,
always.
we appreciate it. And like, share, subscribe, do your thing, like tell your friends about it, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next month. We'll be back in December, depending on what the universe throws our way. But we will be back.
We will. Take care.
Cool. Have a fabulous day. See you next month.